One teacher was teaching mathematics to a little child in the nursery class. She said, "Mayank, what is 1 plus 1 plus 1? Mayank began thinking. The teacher said, "Let me help you. Supposing I give you one banana and then another banana and then another banana. How many will you have?" Mayank responded cheerfully, "Madam, I will have 3 bananas." "Perfect. Now let's do it again. Supposing I give you one apple and then another apple and then yet another apple. How many apples will you have, Mayank?" He said, "Madam, I will have 4. The teacher was almost pulling her hair in frustration. How 4? While harmonious relationships can be the source of great joy to our heart and a boon to the quality of our life, in contrast, disharmony in relationships can result in untold miseries. In fact, if you ask people the one primary reason why they are unhappy, so many will say it is bitterness in their relationships. Therefore, it is important to learn how to navigate our way through them. And one important piece of advice here is to stop being judgmental, because you don't know the other person's story. One doctor came rushing to the hospital to conduct a surgery. The child's father was waiting impatiently and said, "What took you so long? It's a matter of life and death for my child. How can you be so irresponsible?" The doctor said, "I was not in the hospital. The moment I got intimated, I rushed here. Now please calm down and allow me to do my work." He walked into the operation theater, conducted the surgery which turned out to be successful. The doctor emerged from the operation theater after 2 hours and said to the father, "Congratulations, your child is safe. Learn from the nurse what is to be done now." And then he walked out. The father asked the nurse, "Why is he so full of vanity and so disdainful in his conversation?" The nurse said, "Do you know, his child died in a car accident yesterday. Today morning he was at the funeral when we pinched him, and the moment he completed it, he rushed here to help." Hearing that, the father's perspective changed completely. He realized the great favor the doctor had done for his child. So often we rush in to make judgments without realizing the other person may have his or her own story. Empathy is what is required here. It is the sense of caring and feeling for what the other person may be going through. Without empathy, we often make judgments about the other which are so incorrect. One teacher was teaching mathematics to a little child in the nursery class. She said, "Mayank, what is 1 plus 1 plus 1? Mayank began thinking. The teacher said, "Let me help you. Supposing I give you one apple and then one more apple and then one more apple. How many apples will you have, Mayank?" He responded, "Madam, I will have 4. The teacher said, 4? Come, let me do it again for you. Supposing I give you one banana and then another banana and then another banana. How many will you have?" Mayank responded cheerfully, "Madam, I will have 3 bananas." "Perfect. Now let's do it again. Supposing I give you 1 apple, and then another apple, and then yet another apple. How many apples will you have, Mayank?" He said, "Madam, I will have 4. The teacher was almost pulling her hair in frustration. "How 4? Mayank said, "Madam, because I have one in my bag which my mother gave to me to take to school. So 3 which you will give and 1 which I have." Now Mayank was correct from his perspective. The teacher was not understanding and was jumping to conclusions about a defect in his thinking without realizing his side of the story. So, as the saying goes in marketing, if you wish to sell to John Smith what John Smith buys, you have to learn to look at the world from John Smith's eyes. This is the quality of empathy, which is so integral to being a socially amenable human being. Further, do not make others responsible for your happiness. Learn from this newly married couple who went over to the husband's hometown to meet his relatives. They visited an uncle who asked the new bride, "Does your husband make you happy?" The husband was smug and thought she will definitely respond with an affirmation, because over the last few months of their marriage she had never complained. But to his surprise, she said, "No, uncle, my husband does not make me happy." The husband was shocked. "Is this how she is talking before my favorite uncle?" And then the wife went on to say, "My husband does not make me sad either. He is not responsible for my happiness. Whether I feel miserable or joyous is a choice that I make. He can only provide conducive circumstances, but he is not responsible for my happiness." Let's read about this fundamentally important point in relationships from the art and science of happiness. While it is good to have a reliable spouse, parents, and colleagues, it is damaging to pin your happiness on them. Happiness is always an inside job, and we must cultivate it from within. The external world of people, things, and places will always keep changing. If we couple our happiness to something or someone, we will be on an emotional roller coaster. The wise do not wait for circumstances to be ideal for their happiness. They realize the gap between the environment and their response. Thus, taking charge of their thoughts and emotions, they exercise their free will to remain ever joyous. Now, isn't all this such wonderful wisdom that we have discussed over the last 18 episodes of this series, The Art and Science of Happiness? We will bring the series to a consummation as we now learn in the next 2 episodes the perspectives of the most famous and deep thinkers, philosophers, saints, sages, and writers on the topic of happiness. And finally, we'll move on to see what the sacred Vedic texts have to say on this topic, which will be the last word on this subject.